For many American households, the grocery bill has become less predictable. One week, the pressure may come from meat. Another week, from eggs, milk, or packaged food. More recently, another part of the store has begun showing its own strain. The produce aisle. Fresh vegetables are not luxury items. They are basic ingredients in everyday meals. Tomatoes, lettuce, potatoes, mixed vegetables. These are foods families use for dinners, lunches, salads, soups, sandwiches, and healthier meals at home. When their prices rise, the effect is immediate. A shopper buys fewer tomatoes. A family skips the salad. A retiree compares prices more carefully before deciding what goes into the cart. A restaurant owner sees fresh produce costs move higher and has to decide whether to absorb the increase or pass part of it on. This is not a story about one supermarket. It is not a story about one crop. And it is not a claim that every vegetable is becoming more expensive at the same pace. The verified data shows a more specific pattern. Fresh vegetable prices have been rising faster than overall grocery inflation. That pressure is now visible in government data, from farm-level prices to the retail produce aisle. According to the USDA Economic Research Service, retail fresh vegetable prices increased 3.1% from March 2026 to April 2026. That followed a 0.9% increase from February to March. By April 2026, retail fresh vegetable prices were 11.5% higher than 1 year earlier. This was not only a one-month increase, it was also visible across the full year. For grocery shoppers, that matters because fresh vegetables are purchased frequently. Produce is not bought once and forgotten. It is bought again and again. When the price of a common item rises, the household feels it repeatedly. The Bureau of Labor Statistics showed a similar pattern in its May 2026 inflation data. The broader fruits and vegetables index rose 6.1% over the 12 months ending in May. Food at home rose 2.7% over the same period. Fresh vegetables rose even faster. BLS reported that fresh vegetables were 11.9% higher than a year earlier in May 2026. That difference matters. It means the produce aisle was rising faster than the overall grocery basket. Within fresh vegetables, the pressure was uneven. Tomatoes rose 32.0% year over year in May 2026. Lettuce rose 24.9%. Other fresh vegetables rose 8.5%. Potatoes moved in the opposite direction. They were 0.6% lower than a year earlier. That detail is important. It keeps the story accurate. This is not a blanket claim that every vegetable price is rising. It is a story about uneven but significant pressure inside a category many households rely on. Tomatoes and lettuce are not obscure products. They are among the most visible items in the produce aisle. They appear in salads, sandwiches, tacos, burgers, and ordinary meals at home. When those items rise sharply, consumers notice. The grocery shelf, however, is only the final stage of the story. To understand why fresh vegetable prices matter, the chain has to be traced further back. USDA reported that farm-level vegetable prices increased 5.7% from March to April 2026. Compared with April 2025, farm-level vegetable prices were 56.3% higher. That is a major upstream signal. Farm-level prices are not the same as retail prices. They do not move one for one into the grocery store. Between the farm and the shopper, vegetables pass through several stages: harvesting, packing, cooling, shipping, wholesale distribution, retail handling. Fresh vegetables are perishable, which makes the system more sensitive than many packaged food supply chains. They must move quickly. They require temperature control. They depend on transportation and careful handling. When pressure appears early in that chain, it can become important later. even if the path into retail prices varies by crop and region. The simplified chain is clear. Farm-level vegetable price pressure moves into shipping and wholesale pressure. That pressure reaches grocery store produce prices, and grocery store produce prices affect household food budgets. This is the kind of hidden cost chain consumers usually do not see. The shopper sees the price tag. Behind that tag is a system of farms, packers, trucks, warehouses, wholesalers, retailers, and cross-border supply networks. Imports are also part of the produce system. USDA ERS estimated that imports accounted for about 1/3 of U.S. vegetable availability in 2025. Mexico supplied about 77% of U.S. fresh vegetable imports. Canada supplied about 13%. That does not mean imports caused the recent price increases. The verified data does not prove that. But it does show that the U.S. produce aisle depends partly on cross-border supply chains, especially for some vegetables. USDA ERS has noted that tomatoes and cucumbers rely heavily on imports. Lettuce is supplied primarily by domestic production. That distinction matters because fresh vegetable supply is not one single system. Different crops depend on different production regions, seasonal patterns, and supply routes. A tomato story is not automatically a lettuce story. A potato story is not automatically a tomato story. That is why the May 2026 inflation data shows such uneven movement. Tomatoes were sharply higher. Lettuce was sharply higher. Other fresh vegetables were higher. Potatoes were slightly lower. For consumers, however, crop-by-crop differences do not always make the grocery bill easier to manage. A household experiences food inflation through choices. Buy the tomatoes or skip them. Choose lettuce or look for a cheaper side dish. Prepare a fresh meal or switch to something else. For families, these are practical decisions. For retirees on fixed incomes, they can be harder. For people trying to eat healthier, higher fresh vegetable prices can create another obstacle. Fresh produce is often part of basic food planning. When prices rise, shoppers may change what they buy, how much they buy, or how often they buy it. Restaurants and food service businesses face the pressure in another way. They buy fresh produce in larger volumes. If tomatoes, lettuce, or mixed vegetables cost more, margins can become tighter. Some businesses absorb the increase. Some adjust recipes or portions. Some raise menu prices. The verified data does not show the exact response of every restaurant or grocery chain. But the economic pressure is clear. When input costs rise, businesses must decide where those costs go. That pressure can eventually circle back to consumers. The USDA forecast adds another signal. USDA ERS forecast retail fresh vegetable prices to increase 7.8% in 2026. The prediction interval was 3.9% to 11.9%. That means the forecast carries uncertainty. It should not be treated as a guarantee. But it does show that USDA expects fresh vegetable prices to remain higher over the year. At the farm level, USDA forecast vegetable prices to increase 20.5% in 2026. The prediction interval was wide, from 3.6% to 42.7%. That wide range is significant. It shows how uncertain farm-level vegetable prices can be. Fresh produce markets are volatile. Conditions can change. Different crops can move in different directions. Forecasts can be revised. Still, the current verified data shows enough pressure to matter for households. Retail fresh vegetables were higher year over year. Farm-level vegetable prices were much higher year over year. Fresh vegetables were rising faster than food at home overall. And several common items, especially tomatoes and lettuce, showed large increases. This pattern fits a broader cost of living story. Many households are already managing higher costs in multiple categories: rent or mortgage payments, insurance, utilities, gasoline, meat, packaged groceries, debt payments. Fresh vegetables are another place where pressure can appear. By itself, a higher tomato price may not change a household's financial life. But combined with other costs, it reduces flexibility. That is often how middle-class pressure builds, not through one single bill, but through many smaller increases arriving at the same time. The produce aisle is especially sensitive because it is tied to both food and health. Many households want to buy fresh food. Parents want affordable ingredients for family meals. Older Americans may rely on vegetables as part of ordinary eating habits. Workers bringing lunch from home may depend on simple, fresh ingredients. When fresh vegetables become more expensive, the issue is not only grocery inflation, it is affordability in the part of the store many people associate with basic nutrition. There are limits to what the current data can prove. It does not prove that one company caused the increase. It does not prove that one country caused the increase. It does not prove that fuel, labor, weather, tariffs, or retailer margins were the primary cause of the 2026 price increases. Those factors may matter in produce markets generally, but without verified evidence connecting them directly to this price movement, they should be handled carefully. The confirmed story is narrower and stronger. Fresh vegetable prices rose. Farm-level vegetable prices rose sharply. Some specific vegetables rose much more than others. The U.S. produce system relies on both domestic supply and imports, and USDA forecasts suggest continued fresh vegetable price pressure in 2026 with uncertainty. That is enough to explain why shoppers may be seeing higher produce costs. It is also enough to explain why the issue deserves attention. Produce inflation does not always receive the same attention as gasoline, rent, or electricity. But groceries are one of the most visible parts of household life. People see prices every week. They remember what they used to pay. They notice when a basic item suddenly feels expensive. The fresh vegetable story is not about panic. Stores are still stocked, vegetables are still available, and not every item is rising. But the data shows that fresh vegetables have become a meaningful pressure point inside the grocery basket. The current situation is simple. The produce aisle is reflecting a supply chain under price pressure. That pressure begins at the farm level. It moves through a perishable and time-sensitive distribution system. It appears unevenly across different vegetables, and it eventually reaches families, retirees, restaurants, and shoppers managing a larger household budget. What remains uncertain is how long the pressure lasts. USDA forecasts may change. Some crop prices may ease, others may remain elevated. Import flows, domestic production, wholesale conditions, and retail decisions will all matter. For now, the verified data points to a clear conclusion. Fresh vegetables are no longer a quiet corner of the inflation story. They have become another place where hidden economic pressure reaches the everyday American grocery bill.